Hello everyone, and welcome to another one of our videos. Today I'm going to be showing you how to change the crankshaft position sensor, or what Nissan calls the crank angle sensor, on our 2011 Nissan Xterra. The same process should apply to the Nissan Frontier as well as the Suzuki Equator because they're all based on the same chassis. As far as tools you're going to need, I believe all you'll need is a 10mm socket, potentially an extension, obviously a ratchet to go with the socket, a bit driver if you want to take the fender liner out with the wheel still on. I believe that's possible, we'll see, but I think you can take it off by using a right angle bit driver, and then a body clip removal tool or a flat blade screwdriver if you don't have one. You're also potentially going to need some deoxit contact cleaner. Any sort of contact cleaner will work to clean the connector that plugs into the crank angle sensor. So what I'm going to do is go over to the truck, get the fender liner out, and show you where we're going to go from there. Alrighty, so as you can see, we have the fender liner out now. It takes 4 clips, 3 screws right where the mud flap is or would mount, and then 4 screws at the front of the fender liner. There's 2 inside the fender well and 2 underneath the front bumper. Once you pull all those out, the fender liner can come right out, and as long as you have the vehicle off the ground with the wheel off the ground, you can definitely fit the fender liner out with the wheel on. You don't need to take it off. If you don't need to take it off for another reason, no sense in troubling yourself doing that. But as you can see, with the fender liner off, you have direct access to the crank position sensor right there. All you need to do is pull that rubber boot off. There's going to be a 10mm bolt right underneath there. And then once you get that off, the sensor should come directly out. You should be able to pop the new one in, replace the bolt, and have that be super easy. So I'm going to go ahead and get the boot off as well as the connector and show you what it looks like with that off, and then I'll take the sensor out, put the new one in, show you what it looks like there, and we'll go from there. Now I do want to mention one thing that I didn't mention at the beginning of the video. The reason that you might need to replace this. For a lot of people it's going to be you're throwing a code for it and your truck is acting funny. But for me, there is no ECU code being thrown right now. And the reason that I'm replacing it is because I suspect that one is bad. I don't know for sure, but I have symptoms like the truck stalling out unexpectedly upon acceleration from a stop. I have issues with hard starts, a couple other things like that. So that's why I'm taking care of that. It's a pretty cheap sensor to replace, so I'm doing that first. Other common causes of those symptoms are cam sensors, cam position sensors, and a couple other items on these. It's kind of a recurring issue on these vehicles, but this is my first step in diagnosing that. I do want to mention too that this truck is supercharged, so there's a whole bunch of other things that could be the issue as well, but this is the primary suspect right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get the boot off, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I wanted to get you a nice zoomed in shot before I did any further work. This is still the original sensor in the truck. I've just pulled the boot back so you can see what's going on with a nice clear image. So on the left-hand side, where the sensor actually goes into the transmission bell housing, you can see the connector. You can see the tab in this shot. All you need to do to get that connector off is push down that tab, pull it out. Typical automotive connector. And on the right-hand side, you can see that 10mm bolt that I was talking about. So all you're going to need to do is unplug that connector, get the wiring out of the way for you to get a ratchet or whatever in there, and get that 10mm bolt out. The sensor should just come straight out. You should put the new one straight back in and replace the hardware in the connector, and everything should go smoothly. So once I find out if that is indeed the case with the new sensor, I'll be back and show you what the new sensor looks like installed. Alright, so I have the old sensor out. It's this one right here, and that's the new one. I just wanted to show you that your new sensor may not look like the old one. It looks like Nissan's done some significant revision to the sensor since the 2011 vehicle came out. And by the way, there's the part number if you need it. The link will also be in the description below. So, I'm going to go ahead and put the new sensor in, put the bolt back in. Came out just as I had described, just as expected. I'll go ahead and clean the contacts of the connector on the vehicle side, plug everything back in, put the boot back on, and we'll see if it works. Okay, so here's the shot of the new sensor installed. I put some contact cleaner on the vehicle side connector. I'm leaving it there for a few minutes just to drip dry and flash off. But once that's done, I'll go ahead and plug it back in, put the boot back on, and before I put the fender liner back in, I'm going to go ahead and open up the garage and start the truck. Reason being, if there's some reason that the crank sensor is defective, this crank sensor is defective, I'd like to know before I button everything back up. So I recommend you do that as well if you're replacing your sensor, but I'll go ahead and do that, and tell you how it turned out. Well, as you can see, the fender liner's back in the truck. I started it up with the new sensor in there. Worked beautifully. Definitely a lot smoother of a startup than with the old sensor. So we'll see how well it works going forward, driving. Haven't driven it yet, haven't taken it off the lift yet, but we'll see. And I will let you know in the comments below if it fixes the issues that I've been having. So with that, I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.